everybody, and welcome to Volume 39 of the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club Podcast, Manga Readers Only Edition. I am your captain of the measly crew, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by my vice captain, Eggy V. Rodriguez.
Otherwise known as the Honorable E-Bone, ready to cut through all the misconceptions.
All the pirate trolls that are coming down the railway. Time to slash them up. And folks, Eggy, let me be the first to say, welcome to Enies Lobby. We made it, brother. Water 7, hell of an arc. It came to an end in this volume, and we will see by the end where it places on our tier list. But
really?
Oh, really, Eggy? Let's see if you can figure out which chapter exactly Water 7 ends and Enies Lobby begins. But, I might have just blown your mind a bit, so I'm hesitant to ask, Eggy, what is top of mind?
Well, I mean, obviously, Luffy's grand entrance to Enies Lobby is very epic. They don't know what to do with themselves, those suckers, those posers, but I guess I still kind of thought that it was all under the Water 7 umbrella.
And there's one guy in the comments who is adamant about that as well, but reality, facts don't care about your feelings. Water 7 arc officially ended on chapter 374. Because the chapter that has Enies Lobby in the title is the first Enies Lobby chapter. I think it's called The Supermen of Enies Lobby. Chapter 375. So your top of mind is Luffy surrounded by 1,000 Marines, perhaps, at the end of this volume?
Well, there was kind of a little bit, I feel like in this volume, sort of, nothing was really so far ahead of the others, it seemed like to me. I think maybe I could say Robin just still being very adamant and refusing to go renege on her deal that she has with the world government. Hey, you know what? I'm coming with you, but Straw Hats, well, they're free to go on their own. She's trying to get this distance, trying to get the separation. They're not really allowing it. But yeah, I just kind of feel like you have the grand arrival. It's just such a Luffy way to arrive, and
completely ignores the plan. He pretends he was listening and then just goes off on his own.
All these goofy judicial Marines, especially when we have the corresponding cover story that is not something that is invoking a favorable view of the Marines, so they kind of get jumped in on by our truest hero. We have, I forget which volume it's on, but it's in one of the SBSs. We have our popularity contest coming back, and Luffy in his rightful number one place. He's doing rightful number one winner, captain of the crew behavior. Maybe it's a little crazy to some people, but I don't know if I'd have it any other way.
I like that Luffy says on the train, "Oh, I've got a new move I want to try out." And then the first new move we see is a Gum like ally robot or something, where he just takes over a Marine's body. And which, for Luffy to be the symbol of freedom, and he loves being a pirate because it means freedom. For his new move he wants to do to kind of control somebody like a puppet and make him attack his own friends. That's pretty rough, Luffy. Like, you must be pissed to want to get Robin back so bad you would do such a thing. What did he call it? Ally robot? Yeah. Yeah,
because it's not like it's even like a particularly spectacular move like Gum Gatling. It's not as much of a spectacle as Gum Balloon. I don't know, has he used like Gum Battle Axe yet? At this point, I think he has. So it doesn't seem like it's the most effective, but
hey, it took care of 3 Marines pretty good. Maybe that's not the move Luffy had in mind on the train. Maybe he has a different technique in store. But all we can only review this volume, and he says he has a new move, and then he does Ally Robot. I don't know what Oda expects us to say.
If you could, extrapolate the Ally Robot that he's using on a Marine and use it at one of these giants, especially when we're coming into the inner gate, I think that would be the perfect time to utilize it. So that might have been the test run. I guess we can't quite say yet, but
and I did just hear a lawnmower start outside, so let's hope and pray they can't hear that throughout this wonderful One Piece podcast. I'm not going to pull an endless Jess and start crying and bitching that my mom is mowing the lawn while I'm doing my Little Pony podcast. I'll try to be a little more mature than that. Much respect to whatever person wants to keep the lawn nice and fresh. Eggy, here's my top of mind. The location of Enies Lobby is the most bizarre location in all of One Piece so far. So it's an endless day. Like, the sun always shines here. That's intriguing. It's like a weird little island of land barely holding on over a bottomless pit that just has waterfalls falling into it on all ends. Like, just like a giant crater in the ground, like Eneru fucking just blasted Skypiea, and there's just this little bit of land hovering above it. Very strange. Do you have any thoughts on this location, Aggie, and what the fuck is going on here?
Well, it seems unnatural, so I'd have to imagine that something was done by the world government and the Marines in this place, kind of in the same way that, I know that we were just reopening the Alcatraz prison in America, and
I don't know if that's going to go through. I heard that's mostly a museum, and it's kind of hard to backtrack it to a prison.
What's the other one? Rikers Island. I think with those both being island prisons, I kind of get sort of a similar train of thought, maybe for how Enies Lobby was put together, because obviously you have the judicial aspect here, or at least allegedly, that there's going to need to be some rulings going on here, but with it being constructed this way, it feels like it is tactical in order to have a great limiting on what is coming in and out of this area, because obviously if you have like a prison break, they're going to have to file single in a line across this empty, endless waterfall pit, and you could really get a good stop on them there, and anybody who's coming in, so long as their name is not Monkey D. Luffy, and they can just like launch themselves over with rubber powers. And yeah, even so, still going to be a little difficult to get through here. So I feel like I don't know where the endless day comes in here, or how they're even making that a possibility.
Yeah, the sun itself is always shining here. How does that make any sense? Does the Earth not rotate? Like, what the fuck?
So I once again would have to suspect some sort of artificial man-made aspect here, because once again I could see, all right, if we're able to have this area completely visible, or have the best visibility at all times, then it's also going to help us be able to be very certain of what is coming in and out of this area.
And it makes me think of Long Ring Longland, where, there's an island where everything is unnaturally long, and then there's this island where it's just unnaturally always daytime and sunny. It makes me think it's a devil fruit. It's somehow an island either ate a devil fruit that makes things long, that makes the sun shine, or it was affected by a fruit user at some point in history, and it's just some sort of permanent effect. And again, these are not spoilers I'm giving. There are lots of things in One Piece that we do not have the answers to yet.
I suppose I could see that if it was some sort of like heat drawing devil fruit, then maybe that would be why maybe the land was eroded by this constant heat, and that formed these holes that water ended up filling in, and so that's why it's like that.
And we discussed the topic of Chekhov's gun, where once you introduce some deadly idea, maybe you want to use it by the end of the story. Is somebody going to fall into this bottomless pit while we're at Enies Lobby?
Well, considering the fact that we have these giants that appear as the guards of the inner
Oimo and
gates.
Kashi.
Yes. I mean, if we're doing combat with them right there, I think that might be disadvantageous for them, because if they can get a good knock, a good trip up, imbalance, whatever, I feel like they've got more to lose, that they could end up falling down that hole perhaps. But I still would just be as satisfied if there's some sort of explanation that it's to do with helping maintain a restrictive flow of traffic at the lobby. I think that makes also just as much sense, and might not necessarily need to demonstrate people falling down it, in my personal opinion, but that's just me.
Have we seen giants working for the Marines before, or Oimo and Kashi the first ones?
Yeah, I think we had our good
Dory and
friends.
Brogy.
Dory and Brogy had little garden, and then we had the Fishman giant for the Davy Back games. I feel like those are the only giants that we have seen. So, I mean, yeah, if we know they exist, they've got to have more than just a few out there. So it's not so surprising, I guess, that some of them would end up working with the government. But yeah, it's the first that we've seen, and we haven't seen too many other giants besides.
And if I recall, Dory and Brogy were regarded as some of the top elite warrior pirates, maybe the captains of some giant pirate crew. So if they're the top of the fighting force that the giants have, and they were easily defeated by fucking Mr. 3, just from some light trickery, are Oimo and Kashi gonna be that hard to deal with? Surely we have the firepower of Mr. 3 to get these fuckers out of the way.
Yeah, I don't think that we have seen anything in this volume that really speaks to their power at all. Because even we get the fight between Frankie and
Nero?
Yeah, Nero, yeah. Frankie and Nero being like the newest inductee into CP9, and even Frankie's able to handle him because he doesn't have all of his powers down packed. The fact that we have Luffy coming in and just really clobbering swaths of Marines just by himself here. We don't have any reason to believe that these giants have had any training in the 4 or the 6 powers even.
Yeah, it is kind of unshocking that all the Marines at Enies Lobby seem ill-equipped because it's never been invaded before, evidently, so like they've never had to guard against an enemy. Like they're completely untrained, unpracticed. So I'm not surprised that Luffy's obliterating, hundreds of Marines at a time.
Yeah, and even the dialogue we get before Oimo and Kashi appear, they say to each other, "Oh, they opened the gate. Yeah, mustn't let them do that, huh? I don't want to get up, but it's work." Yeah. So they've got the size and the stature and everything like that, but yeah, once again, nothing, and it's coming up right at the end of the volume too. Nothing really to, in my opinion, feel like they have some great power that we haven't seen before. So kind of in the same way that T-Bone is in this volume, he even gets his own chapter name and everything. He's got such morals and such strength of character, and he's really an afterthought. I kind of feel like Kashi and Oimo are possibly treading in that direction. That might be a spectacle, but I don't think they're going to be hanging on too long. Just my prediction.
I've got a bunch of comments to read this week. You want to hear some?
I sure do.
Okay, Truest of Moo says, "It is impressive to watch Aggie week after week mostly end up on the right track. Pun intended. He was right about Spandam's mask being based on a WWE wrestler, only it's not Kane, but Mankind." Does that make sense? I don't know these people.
Maybe that's a Japanese wrestler. But yeah, Kane, the wrestler, had sort of a similar partial face covering mask. I don't know if I'm familiar with Mankind, but...
Shoe Hunter says it was refreshing to hear Aggie take the "Who is Soga King" joke straight. Would you believe that the funniest people online have taken the who is really Sniper King joke to the absolute limit of hilarity?
Is it sort of like some kind of Chuck Norris thing where they're like, who's that Sniper King? It's Enru.
It's fun to play dumb and pretend you don't know that it's Usopp. And I tried to bait you into it last week, and you weren't having it, and everybody was proud of you. So, congratulations, Aggie. You didn't take the Reddit bait.
I'm always happy to not take that.
Kiyu Mero says, "T-Bone used to literally be my favorite One Piece character. And I think it's deserving, even if who knows how much more of him we're going to get. I think he had an ill fate in this volume, but we'll get to T-Bone." Final comment. Filthy Dinger says, the Sea Train section is one of my favorite parts of the whole manga. I'm so hyped. So if he's hyped for it, we should probably get into it, Eggy. The rest of Sanji's secret, Sea Train, subterfuge, whatever the fuck title I gave last episode. Eggy, we're starting with chapters 368 through 377. Eggy, take it away.
Well, obviously, I mean, for no particular reason, I just have to, was it, my CP9 friend who was not in on the things, I apologize, I'm a little brain dead today.
Nero?
No.
Spandam?
One. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong, but anyways, just the start of it here, how he's commenting on how Nami is changing it with the Squarehead sisters in front of everybody, and he goes, "You people are corrupting our society. Cover your stomach and your legs." I got a pretty good chuckle out of that.
I'm surprised you didn't want to open singing the Sniper King theme song, since whenever there's lyrics, you like to sing them to us.
I thought about it, but,
better late than never. Let's do it. Pull them on up. I think it's the opening panel of the volume.
All right. I was born on Sniper Island, and I hit my target 100% of the time. La-di-da, la-di-da, I can strike a rat's eye. And I can target your heart as well. I'm the man from Sniper Island. La-di-da, la-di-da, go on, run away. I'm Sniper King. Woo!
See, that's what people tune into this podcast for. I don't think the other One Piece Virgin podcast is singing any songs to you.
That's right. And you know what? To be honest, okay, I know we talked about this on the last episode. Oh, he's Usopp, but he puts on the mask, and nobody cared who he was until he put on the mask. Listen, I don't care. He's his own man, and he's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful king of the snipers. He's crawling up on side of your train car like the goblin from the Twilight Zone, and I had to stand up and applaud about that. And who doesn't like to crawl and look into a woman's window anyway?
Well, somebody else, I thought I saved the comment, but I guess not. But somebody pointed out he's kind of like Batman, where it was after the death of Mary that he put on his superhero mask. Kind of like Batman saw his parents die. So maybe he is a superhero.
That's a good angle. I like that. All right. But after our brave trad warrior makes sure to tell Nami and the Squarehead sisters, hey, better not be changing your clothes like some kind of harlots. I gotta say I was quite surprised at the tactics here. So, yeah.
That was
Frankie.
Polly,
Sanji,
I assume, is the one who's being approved.
Say Polly?
Was Polly the one complaining?
Paul, yeah. I'm thinking like Polly wanted cracker parrot. Yeah. Let me drink some more of this brain stimulating juice.
The Ropeman. We could go through the cover story real quick because we forgot to mention Homeboy Django makes an appearance in this volume. And I thought we'd be a little more excited about that one. But he's not really up to much.
Yeah. I'll just finish my one thought here, though, that, so in the first chapter of the volume here, Sanji, the Sniper King, and Frankie have a grand idea to basically draw the T-Bone and the Marines who are ahead of them back to their car, separate the car, and then kick it off. And so I have to say, I mean, I know that the Sniper King, if it would happen to be Usopp, very tactically minded, but, in the contrast to a Luffy, head first, gung-ho, we'll worry about the small things later. Just a nice, simple misdirection like that was appreciated.
Luffy would have fought through both of those cars and obliterated them all. Sanji, he just chops the cars off and leaves them stranded in the middle of a tsunami. In that scene with Nami changing her clothes, she does reveal Usopp used some Skypean dials to upgrade her climb attack. So is that hinting maybe Nami's going to get a fight coming up in Enies Lobby?
Well, I like it because, not to get a little bit ahead here, but We have, basically coming in from the end of the last volume into this volume, we have the Sniper King power level upgrade there. In this volume, we have Sanji. He's kind of going against his code of how he normally fights. He's willing to utilize the blade. So that's
only when he's fighting food, because you're supposed to use a kitchen knife on food. I liked that.
True, but I do like we're giving a little bit of room for that growth, though. Maybe we could get more there too, perhaps. The dial for Nami, it was kind of okay, this makes sense because we already have Usopp being the one who kind of created her weapon for her to begin with, and giving her the instructions that were, a little bit silly and stuff back in Alabasta. But him being very familiar with this dial technology and really incorporating it in everything that he's been doing often, for him to incorporate her into her weaponry, it's something that's kind of like, yeah, we can kind of grab this bit of strength from this part of the story, and we can incorporate it into your ensemble without needing to. We don't need any training arcs or anything like that. It's just kind of complementary with what we've already gone through.
Natural upgrade that makes sense with the story.
Yep. So I like that. I think we're probably going to be needing these sorts of small, persistent upgrades as we're moving forward to Enies Lobby. We've seen what CP9 is capable of already, and now we're getting into some of these real head honchos, Spandam, and so on. So I think that was very good to have these things tacked on in this volume. Really helps the progression. But speaking of progression, yes, our most beloved Miss Golden Week and her landing on Vacation Island.
Lucky landing when the pterodactyl got its friendship ink washed off in the rain. They just so happened to get dropped on Vacation Island, but I guess the downside is Django and Lady Hina, Captain Hina, all these Marines are also there. Perhaps not on vacation, but on the hunt. And I really like the panel when we find out that the Unluckies that Sanji beat the shit out of are now in Marine custody, and they're being bribed with ramen and other human food to rat out all the Baroque Works members and draw portraits of what they look like, since nobody knows. That's a little bit of world building I didn't remember before. I didn't know the Unluckies were still alive. I thought, something bad happened to them, but they're still kicking, and they're living the best life possible now. They're snitches and sellouts to the world government.
Yeah, I do a lot of video game analogies in my critiquing and processing of the media, but I also have followed the hip-hop culture for most of my life, some of that gangsta culture, and a popular hip-hop blogger that I followed for about 10 years named DJ Academics. He would always say, in regards to maybe some gang members turning out on the gang and flipping sides, he'd always say, they are only loyal as their last meal. If you're not giving them something, you're not putting some money in their pockets, giving them some iced out chains, then you can't expect them to be with you. So really, you can't get more on the nose than that tasty ramen. And then there's also another meme called the Italian beef, where there was a couple gangsters that snitched on each other because they had him sitting in the room for 10 hours, and the cops said, hey, if you snitch, we'll get you something to eat. And he's like, yo, man, let me get Italian beef and Pepsi, man. I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, man.
That's
like the snitch code now. If you're an Italian beef, then you're a snitcher.
Would Luffy betray his Nakama for some Italian beef? His two favorite things, meat and his friends.
It would probably be the greatest battle of his entire. He's in this volume. He's literally tearing his pants, that he was out in the rain. Oh, we're gonna get some fresh, dry clothes, and he's ruining his brand new clothes by trying to stuff giant ham chunks on a bone into his pockets. So I think you'd be giving him the greatest fight of his life to make him pick between his friends and delicious food.
Meanwhile, we get some moments with Sanji, Frankie, and Usopp, and Frankie showing off his cyborg body, and they can't believe it. They think it's really cool. Sanji, he can't believe it's possible that a cyborg man could exist, which I feel like Sanji's a little more worldly. Is cyborg man that rare of a thing? Is Frankie the only one? It could be.
I think so. But in them speaking at this moment, I felt like it was a little heavy-handed on the foreshadowing here, because Frankie goes, "Oh yeah, I could take these shots and maybe I might bleed, but it's nothing. The only problem is, since I basically enhanced myself, I could only enhance what I could access. So it's my front that is cyborg, but my back is still like normal. So if I get attacked from the backside, then I would be in danger." And I didn't need to get anything else from there. I'm like, okay, so he's definitely about to get hit from the backside.
Do you think it's heavy-handed for him to reveal his weakness before he gets into a fight? Do you think it would have been more natural if we just find that out through the course of the fight?
I guess the information would have needed to be delivered all the same, but yeah, just kind of without any of the other context of the upcoming fight that he had with Nero and them having been familiar with each other, it seemed like. I feel like it would have been, might have been maybe just a little more appreciated if he could have found a way to kind of piece it all together instead of like, well, as long as I don't get attacked from the back. Anyway, next chapter. All right, time for a fight. Oh no, I'm being attacked from the back.
Well, before we discuss that fight, should we get into Sanji versus Wanze? Is that his name? And once again, was this inspired by Boba Bo? Because he's very specifically using his nose hairs as ramen cookers through his nose to attack Sanji. Nose hair combat, Eggy? Is Oda stealing from the best yet again?
So he's very inspired by the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland.
It kind of looks like, and I might not be allowed to say this legally, so pretend I didn't, but it kind of reminds me of Rowley Jefferson from a certain children's book series with the dumb hanging open mouth and the big teeth. But
and I do like how it kind of seems like we figure out later on, kind of towards the conclusion of the Sanji and Wanze fight, that like his face was meant. He manipulated himself basically in some kind of way to end up like having this appearance.
And Sanji he beats the ugly off of him and reshapes his face through kicks to make him beautiful, and Wanze's very upset about this. He liked being a freak. So another relatable character. If I was kicked so hard it made me a Chad, I'd be pissed too. There goes the monkey, aura.
That's right. We'd lose all our personality like beautiful women. We'd just, be so used to everybody just loving us for doing nothing.
The more beautiful you are, the less personality you have. Many such cases.
But yeah, so aside from the strong Mad Hatter influence, I would agree with the the ramen nose blast, and then just really the everything about the character. He's so goofy in his frozen expression, and how his grand weapon above all else is to have this sort of ramen golem suit where he just sits in this giant ramen suit and he can use all the noodles like a ramen golem, really. Just being able to use these as an extension of his own ability.
And it's so squishy and sticky that Sanji's blunt force kicking attacks are completely useless, so he has to utilize cooking knife utensils to cut through the ramen suit of armor. And I love his explanation of you are wasting food, you're playing with your food by using it as a weapon like this. He has a moral issue with the way that this man fights. It goes against Sanji's integrity, and it's such a personal thing to him. And he says, "I'm gonna make you eat all of this food." And does that ever happen, or he just kicks him through two cars? He never shoves all the ramen down his throat, does he?
I don't believe so, but I thought that towards the conclusion of their fight, the ramen he was slicing off it was plated, in the kitchen, but I'm not sure if I have, that would have just been headcanon, perhaps.
I'm sure Sanji dished it all up as he was fighting. Is Wanze as annoying as the big ball man from Skypiea? Who's the more annoying, freakish character, Aggie?
It's funny you should say that because I definitely got the Torian energy. Was that Hattori is the
Hattori,
ball man?
or is that
Was it-
Satori? Is Hattori the pigeon?
Oh yeah, right. Yes. There's a lot of Tories. It must be like one of they call those the yeah, whatever. There's just a lot of Tories that have been in the chat. We had the Tory triplets, and we have a Tory the pigeon. But yes, the ball man, Tory. There's something in his unrelenting sort of glee, I suppose, was gave me that feeling. And then just, especially once he encapsulated himself in all the ramen noodles, he's just kind of like this big.
And Sanji also fought Mr. 2. Does he only fight complete freaks of nature? Has Sanji fought like a badass person before? Like Pearl was a joke.
Navy back games. I mean, that was some pretty tough combat there.
Yeah.
I mean, he certainly has the ability. I guess I don't know. He just that's how Oda's writing him. He's got to fight.
Well, he writes Zoro to be the badass one, and then Sanji gets to be like the fun one, I think.
Mhm.
So sometimes the fun one, your opponents are embarrassing, but hey, you're the fun one.
Speaking of embarrassing opponents, homeboy Nero.
The Sea Weasel. I forgot that was his little name there.
So Nero, he gets to get on the cover of this volume 39, and so I guess he's supposed to, with the sea weasel, he'd be like a sea otter type of person, some kind of rodent. He's really big on the moonwalking power, but I thought he was going to be like a cat boy, to be honest. Like looking at the volume, I'm seeing just like a man. He's kind of got like this. He's got the whiskers coming out of the sides of his face. He's kind of got like a fat, like upper lip sort of pouch thing going on.
This is a rough volume cover with Wanze and Nero on it. I mean, T-Bone looks cool and Robin, and the three guys in the middle. But I'd maybe switch out Nero with like a Rob Lucci. And Wanze just looks terrible.
I mean, I guess it's like, what can I say? Because these are the main conflicts of the volume for sure. But man, there's some ugly people in this one.
But Nero, he's an extremely forgettable character, and like, if you would have showed me his picture 2 weeks ago, I could not have told you who the fuck this is or where he shows up, because he fights Frankie, but he doesn't have all the 6 powers mastered, and then when he loses the fight, Lucci just kills him immediately for being not good enough, for not being a true master of the 6 powers, and just fucking finger pistols him to death, and then, I mean, spoiler alert, I don't know if he's ever mentioned again. I forgot this character existed, so as much as everybody loves the Sea Train, perhaps the combat on it was not the greatest highlight.
He should have been a sea cat instead of a sea weasel, because then he could have had 9 lives and he'd be good to go to come back. But
Frankie pulls the Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly thing of, oh, what's that behind you? But instead of running away, he goes up and punches Nero. That was pretty good. He fell for the dumbest trick ever.
And so, yes, as Sanji is doing his incredible combat versus Wanze, the ramen golem, and Nero and Frankie are doing their thing up top, we have the Grand Sniper King somehow inches along the side of the Puffing Tom, comes up on the window. I didn't think that any windows on the sides of the train would be one that would open. I don't know, maybe, I guess I just fly too much. I never take any trains or ships where I'll be opening a window, but...
And Robin recognizes him immediately as Long Nose, so she's not falling for that shit like perhaps other characters might. And in the SBS of Chapter 369, Oda reveals that perhaps Nami does not wear a bra beneath her clothing, and the live action One Piece has been working hard to be authentic in terms of the clothing so far, taking direct outfits from even cover art that's not even in the manga. Maybe no bra for season 2 and 3, huh? Let those things poke through if we're trying to be authentic to One Piece. Oda himself said No bra on Nami. I'm just saying, people. All I care about is the authenticity of my cartoon. I don't want this poor actress's titties on display, but if it has to be.
They might be filming, if they're going to like Arlong Park, it's going to be so hot and tropical.
I think they already filmed that part, Aggie. I think we've seen that.
Okay. I'm thinking of actual continuity and not Arlong showing up to the Bharati. So
no, dude, they went to Arlong Park and fought. Did you forget?
Probably.
Episode 7, I believe. Well, and then episode 8, they fight Garp for no reason because that's fucking retarded.
Maybe what it is I'm sure have seen all this episode. I don't know if we watched.
We didn't watch all of them?
I don't think so. Oops.
I think
that was the last episode that I remember watching. It was Arlong at the Bharati.
What the fuck? I'm sure if people who've listened to this have probably heard us review all 8 episodes, I hope. So maybe some intoxication station is involved here in the forgetting, who could say. But Usopp and Robin, any thoughts on these scenes with them?
Well, I do like how I'm guessing that based on the fact that when Robin and Usopp are communicating, he's trying to get her to come with him, and one of the people from the other train carts comes in to talk to Robin. He's like, "Oh, this seems suspicious," and we got her wearing this hood where it's her face, and then it just goes very back and up in a perhaps Sniper King shape for some reason, and as Usopp is the Sniper King, he's like trying to mimic what hand movements she should be doing with what she's saying when she's trying to get the guy to leave him alone or leave her alone, and he's like doing all this stuff with his arms, and he's like, well, something's very suspicious here.
It doesn't notice that suddenly she has the arms of a black man, but
and a giant lumpy head that's shaped like a mask.
In the conversation, so Usopp updates Robin on everything that's been going on, and she is adamant it's not worth it if they use the Buster Call. You guys are fucked. I still can't come with you. And Usopp says, "You don't get the way Luffy works. They'll follow you to the depths of hell if necessary." And it's got me wondering, we've talked about Davy Jones' locker. Perhaps an afterlife is a thing in One Piece. Is this foreshadowing for a future arc? Will Luffy literally go to hell to save one of his crewmates?
Well, there's a couple things I could think of. For one, I think with 2 volumes that are heavily Sea Train focused, I think that this is lengthier already. At least it's tracking that way than what I had originally anticipated. And if we are to think about the setup here at Enies Lobby, we're not in the inner gate yet. We are still at this spot that is this strip of land surrounded by what appears to be like infinite pits around it. So there's nothing really that would rule out, perhaps at this point, maybe one of the giants, it's going to be the first panel of the first chapter of volume 40. Maybe a giant just like smacks the ground and something breaks off and they all fall down into this pit. Could be some foreshadowing there. I mean, we've seen that there's been foreshadowing in this chapter already. In this volume rather already. So I can't really rule out anything because this is such a fantastical place. Like Beyond the Gate is so mythical, really, that they don't even open the gate all the way. They only open it just enough for people to like squeeze through and then immediately close it again so that nobody could ever get in or out of this gate that isn't supposed to, which then kind of mimics the that sort of intense monitoring of that traffic in and out of the gates. Mimics kind of what we have limiting the traffic flow by having this just singular small strip of land over this giant waterfall basin. So this might be something down there. Maybe it's like in a video game, don't fall down there because you're gonna die. Oh, what did he do? And maybe it's not death. Maybe there's something that nobody knew was down there, special secret.
If Luffy does end up going to hell, I'm curious to see if all the dead characters in One Piece history are going to be waiting there for him. because I kind of cringe at the thought of like Luffy meeting like Gold Roger's spirit or ghost or something. Like, I kind of hope they don't go that route, but to have a whole arc that takes place in Skypiea, which is heaven, and then to foreshadow Luffy will follow you to the depths of hell to save you, I'd love if there's a whole arc where Luffy does just that. But we'll see if the Gates of Justice have anything to do with it. And speaking of unnatural on this island, I mean, those Gates of Justice are about the size of the Red Lion, it looks like. That shit is massive. How could they build something like that?
It looked almost more like a sigil, like in the sky, like in the clouds, more than just like an actual gate.
Yeah, very bizarre. I hope we get an explanation for everything on Enies Lobby. We're coming up to the Rocket Man. There's a few cars waiting on the railway ahead of it. And Luffy jumps ahead to see what's going on and tells Zoro, hey, this thing's in the way, cut it in half. And are we leaving all these Marines for dead now in the middle of this tsunami, Eggy?
Well, I'm just surprised that they were all standing so perfectly as to when Zoro then cuts through these abandoned train cars, that he didn't instantly kill people that were inside. We get towards the end here, there's a inference that 23 people allegedly were killed, not in this instance, but just in general in the apprehension of Nico, Robin, and Frankie. So I don't know if this is supposed to imply that some of these Marines were some of the dead, because it's not looking too good for them, for one. I mean, they're like, we get the sea train tracks. Okay, they're supposed to be just below the water, but like, what kind of stability is this going to provide? Like, they can't really just hang on there and just like wait for the waves to pass by. You know, at best case scenario, they might just eventually starve and dehydrate to death in that case. But then after the slicing goes through and the Rocket Man moves a bit forward, we see it looks like T-Bone has taken care of a Neptunian by cutting a Neptunian in half. And this Neptunian is absolutely massive. It's probably as tall as 10 men at least. So yeah, they're going to be floating on these chunks of destroyed train with Neptunians that are like 5,000 pounds or and indescribably massive, murderous sea beasts that are just looking for them.
And let's talk about the trial of T-Bone here. Poor guy. He's the most noble, selfless Marine. He gets tricked by Sanji. They're abandoned, and he feels so horrible that he's running on the tracks trying to catch up to the other cars through a storm. And like you were saying, a sea beast 5 times bigger than the train that Zoro just cut attacks him. He just chops it in half like it's nothing. So in terms of power scaling, we're being told, hey, this massive feat Zoro just did, this guy did something 5 times cooler than that. And now it's like this, they're about to meet. Zoro's on the train coming right at him. T-Bone's on the track. They're going to slash at each other. And we're to believe they're at least of a similar strength if he's chopping up sea beasts 5 times bigger. So I think what Oda is trying to put in the story here is that it's not about the strength of the men in this encounter. It's more about who is more on the side of justice, like who has the stronger sense of justice in this situation, and that's who's going to plow through the other. And to set up T-Bone as he is what the Marines should be, like he is the most noble, good one who's fighting for right. All he wants to do is protect innocence. But even in this scenario, he is in the wrong, and he has no way of knowing that. He thinks these people are terrorists and pirates, and he's right on one hand, but the bigger picture is that Nico Robin is not actually, a terrorist villain. She's being abducted by the government to be tortured and all these things. So he, in a way, T-Bone, despite his nobility and all the good things about him, he is a useful idiot cop for an unjust totalitarian government. And I think that's an extremely interesting, nuanced character to put in this story. And he gets obliterated by Zoro.
Yeah, I guess it felt a bit, I guess, rushed, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
just the fact that it's really just a drive by. It's a train by, slashing, and T-Bone is knocked out, and he flies off into the water, sploosh, and I guess now I see that after the Rocket Man goes by, the Marines are actually trailing on their halves of train, and they seem to be paddling with like 2x4s.
So they're alive. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how well they're going to be able to move. I know we are getting close to Enies Lobby at this point, but maybe if they can go pick up T-Bone, and maybe he's going to have some kind of great power that he can get him moving faster. But I feel like with what you're saying about how we know as the readers that he's got this strong sense of justice that is being misdirected, just the fact that it was a rushed piece of combat to where there wasn't a lot of animosity or anything that really could build up between the Straw Hat crew and T-Bone.
Yeah, Zoro even like admires the guy after he beats him. Like he has a little line about,
like, we have to do. Basically, sorry, it is what it is. But I think that, yeah, in having this sort of minimal exposure with one another at this point, maybe this could open up in the future. Then Straw Hats get to Enies Lobby. They use their compass to get the justified results they're looking for, getting their crew back together, making maybe some people who wouldn't necessarily have to be their enemies understand where they're coming from. Maybe this could include T-Bone. Maybe he could be in a Smoker-esque position where, yes, he's got this loyalty with the Marines, but he's able to see what the Straw Hats are capable of, and that they end up behaving in the way that is the right way at the end of the day. And maybe he could soften any sort of apprehension that he would have towards them. I don't know if they would be friends necessarily, but I think that by having this minimal exposure, we have more opportunity in the future for them to get an understanding with one another.
So fingers crossed, Eggy's prediction of the week, a bright, prosperous future for T-Bone. Maybe he'll be allies with Straw Hat Luffy. It's yet to be seen. Do we have any other thoughts on the Frankie and Nero fight? I don't know if we really got into that too much. Frankie uses his centaur mode at one point, which is very goofy and silly and fun.
Yeah, Frankie, I mean, if we want to talk about a highlight of character development as we come towards the conclusion, I mean, I get, what is this, 372, in which he's doing his shape-shifting here. So it was really towards the end of the official Water 7 arc. Probably the GOAT, as the young people say, character development throughout this volume. This awful Frankie stealing Usopp's money, spending it frivolously. Oh, they're wasting all their money on alcohol and parties like some kind of horrible monster.
Who would do such a thing?
And we end up...
Who could live such a way?
I wouldn't even want to think. I definitely wouldn't want to see him in a mirror or anything like that. But being on top of the sea train, shape-shifting into Centaur, except it's accidentally set backwards, so his torso is just pushing out in front of him. He's shooting out nails out of his mouth. He's just really giving it his all in such a beautiful way.
So Frankie might be, you're saying, the GOAT of the Water 7 arc? Favorite new character?
I mean, I'm thinking there's a lot of things to like, a lot of people and giant frogs to like in this arc, but I think he really is probably the top tier, Mr. Frankie. And, I think I probably knew it from his first flexing with his beautiful square-headed women. I think I probably did know then, but if I didn't know then, I certainly do now.
Frankie's Centaur mode is really only useful for holding down all of Nero's limbs so that he could use his fist to just pound his face through the car, and then him and Sanji's fights kind of end at the same time, and the villains and Sanji and Frankie all end up in the car with Rob Lucci and the rest of CP9. And You know, a few volumes ago, Aggie, you were saying, oh, Bluno has the door fruit? This is lame as fuck. What's he gonna do with that? And some commenters were like, I think Aggie's underestimating the power of the door fruit. And we get to see how truly terrifying it is here with Sanji's and Usopp's really brilliant escape plan with the smoke screen, grab Robin, run away, detach the car. Oh, we're getting away with Robin. We did it. Successful end to the mission to end the arc. But even with the rose whips grabbing on and everything, ultimately the door fruit, just make a fucking portal. Doesn't matter how far away your car is, we can get you. And they're doomed. The arc ends in complete failure, Aggie.
Well, I'm glad that you specified the power of the door fruit, because I'm going to state here that power and utility are two different things.
Sure.
So yes, I think that we see here that the door fruit can be extremely advantageous in very particular situations. And I mean, this is really the penultimate, if I'm using that word correctly, situation in which it's important here, because
I'd just say ultimate for that.
Ultimate.
Penultimate means second to last.
Oh. Yeah. That's a word I've used it because it sounds right. Sometimes I do that with words, so I like.
You usually use it, right? You know, I mean, this might be the second to last best usage of the door fruit. You might be correct.
But retrieving an escaped hostage is basically like the number one thing. You could use it to maybe like get into a bank vault or something like that too. But largely, I feel like, I mean, obviously it's going to be written into the story in a way that's going to make the most sense. But just thinking in some, fantasy life where One Piece is the real world, and what do I want to pick to make myself be the best, self-insert that I could be? It just feels still a little bit short to me. I'm not gonna lie.
I want to know what the distance range on there is. Like, can you only open doors to where he can see? Because if it's just a portal teleportation fruit, and I can open a door in the air and appear, I don't know, in Japan, that'd be pretty cool. But maybe it's limited to his eyesight. Sure. Yeah. And I'm sure, well, one day we'll probably do a tier list of devil fruit abilities and which ones we'd actually want to have. And maybe Door ends up in C tier. Maybe not super high. Ends up in C train tier. Only useful on the C train.
I guess if we're going against something like the chop fruit, it's something that has a lot of utility for battle, but at the same time, you could just keep on splitting yourself up and reforming. And it's like, all right, well, great for combat, but this is maybe like the inverse of that, where it's not particularly relevant in combat, but it can have these things.
Well, if you had Chop, you could sit on the couch and have your hand float to the fridge and grab a beer, and you don't have to get up. So lots of utility for that as well.
Have a door fruit opening, just portal in the couch cushion to just be inside the fridge and grab beer like that. That's how I base all the devil fruit is. What's going to give me the quickest beer?
Yeah, do a tier list for every devil fruit and how it helps you get beer faster and lazier. Right. So
that's I want to talk about. I
want to talk about Robin here, because we find out last volume, Robin, she's on our side the whole time. What a relief. But it's not so relieving, because she's desperate to not be saved. Lucci gives us a whole speech about how the government's going to spend years torturing information out of her before, once she's squeezed and tried, they're going to kill her. She's hearing all of this, and still, Usopp picks her up, takes her back, and she's still fighting against the Straw Hat. She does not want to be saved. She wants to go with the government. Bluno comes, and she's like, yeah, I'm not trying to escape. I'll go with you. Let's go. Just don't kill them. How do you save somebody who desperately wants to die?
Well, what this reminds me of is going back to the thread from the very beginning here, the dreams versus destiny. So Nico Robin, she was imbued with a certain ability to be able to understand these poneglyphs and the information that they could have in regards to ancient weapons that could devastate the entire world in the wrong hands. And being given this knowledge, or having this knowledge imparted upon her, really just inherently not something that she really sought to as a young child. Having this may have incurred the wrath of that Buster call that we heard about in the last volume about what could happen. Well, we do find out that this did happen to her home island, and the Buster call basically extinguished all life from the entire island besides for Nico Robin. So this traumatic event, she might be trying to fill these shoes. I have this destiny that I was intertwined with this information, and my being too close to anybody while on this mission to gather this information. From the very beginning, it led to the most incredibly impactful death of people who I knew and loved, and from then on I had to just keep everybody at this distance, go from crew to crew, and this might be the end of the line and the destiny that was written for me by having this inherent ability. This might just be what it is. I might be tortured, very true, but I might need to shoulder whatever is going to happen to me, because I just, by coincidence, I did happen to get close to the Straw Hat crew. Now I saw that they are good people, that they're agreeable people, and they are very powerful people. And if I just go off on my own, I reject them, and I shoulder this responsibility that comes with my destiny, then I could prevent any greater suffering being done to those around me who have grown a fondness for.
And when she has that mindset, how do you get through to her to stop being selfless towards her friends and to not want to sacrifice herself for them? Like, how do you convince this person, no, we can fight back? And I think the answer is one of my favorite panels when Usopp says to Robin, have faith in Luffy, and it's this great like half and half close up on their faces. I love that panel. And that is, of course, the final chapter of Water 7, and we even get a bookend because Yokozuna the Frog jumps onto the tracks in front of the Rocket Man, and that's how the first chapter of the arc started, with Yokozuna on the tracks. So, nice bookending with the Frog. Any thoughts on Yokozuna showing up here, Aggie?
Well, I am glad that in the flashback with Iceberg, Tom, and Frankie in their younger years, that we had the context provided for Yokozuna being a part of their lives, and then we have Kokoro here also that's guiding the Rocket Man and is speaking with Yokozuna to kind of, hear him out in a translation sort of way. So very good that we had the prior context here, because, well, listen, Yokozuna, he's just so lovable. Not necessarily in like a cutesy kind of way like Momu was or Chow Chow or whatever, but just in his, he's got that dedication like Laboon. I think we kind of might have likened to him to before, sort of this repetitive drive stemming from a prior incident that was very disheartening or very upsetting. But unlike Laboon, I don't know, something about, obviously I like posting frogs, Pipe the Frog, he's my favorite meme of all time. And Yokozuna and Luffy like on the front of the Rocket Man, like in this completely Bring It On pose. It's a beautiful, beautiful panel. I love it.
Are we gonna get you as Yokozuna for a cosplay?
I mean, I'm probably about as wide and my head is about as large, so I think I would be down to give it a try. I think green face paint's only like $10 on Amazon, so.
And one last thing before we put this arc on the tier list. We have an SBS from Oda, another one, and he answers a concern we had, or at least I had, about how did Zoro end up face down in that chimney? It makes no sense. We saw him land in the ocean. Oda explains, Zoro swam out of the ocean and he wanted to get a high vantage point to see where he landed, and that's why he climbed on the chimney and then slipped. So, whatever, I guess. But Aggie, that is the end of the Water 7 arc, and I've put our personal tier lists into the tier list maker so they're nice and fancy on screen for everybody to see right now. And if I take a look, we both have Skypiea and Alabasta in S tier. And then it switches up a little bit at A tier. But Aggie, where does Water 7 land for you?
So let me. All right. So, all right. So mine is the one that has the very heavy A heavy listing.
No,
right?
yours is the one with the million in B.
Well, I suppose that tracks because I did feel like things have progressively improved. So, all right, I think that I am going to say that Water 7 for me, I'm feeling like I feel a little scandalous right here, maybe, but I'm thinking I'm going to have it below Arlong Park and above Jaya.
Okay, A tier for Water 7. Let's talk it out, Aggie. Water 7 highlights. We got Usopp versus Luffy. We get to meet CP9. Robin becomes more intriguing than ever before. The crew is at its lowest point perhaps we've ever seen, where they're being hunted down on this island and framed for the murder of their new friend Iceberg. And the crew is truly decimated in a way we've never seen before. They get defeated by Lucci in one blow each to Luffy and Zoro. And then even the arc here ends with Sanji's ultimate gambit to rescue Robin ending in complete failure. And I like the stakes of this. The stakes are more personal than ever, and they're more deadly and devastating than ever.
Well, I suppose now that you mention it, I think I had the same realization maybe in Alabasta with Luffy being defeated by Crocodile. I can't remember what exactly which arc this is reminding me of, but now that you remind me about, yes, the Usopp Luffy fight, and I guess I'll also maybe attack in the destruction of the Going Mirror. We don't really know where that's going right now, but just giving this arc sort of its own, exclusivity. I'm not going to think about what's coming next, just giving it what happened within it, the confines of the arc. I suppose, the weightiness of it, because I felt like in the Bharati and Arlong Park, these stories with Sanji and Nami were very heavy, but I think I'll be reconsidering this because I think the weight is greater considering that we've had the crew together for such a time now since these arcs. So after giving it some more thought, I'm going to move Water 7 to the top of A tier, actually.
Oh my god. The king of the A tier, above even Bharati A for Aggie.
Yeah, it's good, but I think, just the fact that we've got, and obviously the portion of the story around the fight between Usopp and Luffy, and then just the general friction between Usopp and the rest of the Straw Hat crew, it definitely plays into the memories that we've put together over these volumes with the Straw Hat crew, and I think, it's gonna weigh it down a little bit more for me. It's gonna add some more weight to it, rather. So, all right, at this time, top of the A tier, that's where I'm gonna stick it at.
For me, I'm going to put it in S tier, but not number 1. It's going to go second place after Skypiea and above Alabasta, just because Skypiea is a more complete story and it's more emotionally satisfying at the end with the big silhouette of Luffy and letting Cricket know the truth. And, it's just it's more complete and it has the Nolan flashback, so it's still my number 1 in One Piece, but Water 7 is a close second just because of all the things I named earlier. And I think I said all my points about it. Just the most personal, the highest stakes, and like the world of piracy in general is at stake if the world government gets what they want and they get this Pluton ship. The devastation and the military power will be so mighty. So for those reasons and more, S tier, Kino, Eggy, We got 3 chapters of Enies Lobby to get through.
That we do. And I'll say, just since you mentioned it, I think could have been a heavier weight for me. Obviously, we have the knowledge of the Pluton blueprints and everything existing. I think if within the Water 7 volume, if we had a definitive grasp on these blueprints by the world government or by CP9 versus just, the knowledge of their existence, if there was a little bit more of a play put into action here, that I think that would have weighed in a little more in that way for me. But just as it stands, it's not tipping the scales. But
Chapter 375 begins the Enies Lobby arc, and Frankie and Robin have been recaptured after all the trials and turmoil of the last 2 volumes. It was all for nothing. And they're having a conversation alone in the car. I think it's interesting that they're just leaving these prisoners alone to chat about philosophy, but they are. And Frankie lets her know, hey, existing is not a crime. And Iggy,
right.
How many Twitter accounts with trans flags in the bio have posted this quote 1,000,000 times?
Well, I'm not them, but, due to the fact that I was born with a hairline that starts at the back of my head, there's been a lot of people who feel like maybe
Your
I'm
existence
not
is a crime?
all that. I might have got shouted at the car yesterday in a positive way, but probably about 3 or 4 times a week I get shouted other things as I'm, wandering the streets from cars. So I feel like people have taken offense to my existence, and almost most of the time they didn't have a reason to. Okay, maybe they did eventually after I had to start, talking my talk back. But I felt empowered by, Frankie. They called me a cyborg back in the day. Back in the day, there was this place called R9K where they had the
Robot
robots.
9000.
And if you were a blend of robot and normie, they called you cyborg. So hey,
Is that where you were?
can't help what
They
I
called
am.
you that? You were the original Frankie.
Well, it's because I was both unappealing to normal society, but I kept on trying to be part of it as well. So for those reasons, I was considered cyborg tier. So I feel him.
Luffy and Chopper meet Sniper King, and they're so impressed with him. Who could have seen this coming? They don't recognize Usopp. Did Eggy say that very thing last week?
I believe I did. I think that you might.
I laughed out loud at this part when Luffy and Chopper don't recognize him, but like random Frankie family members have thought bubbles like, oh, it's Usopp. Like Chimney, who met Usopp for 1 minute, knows it's Usopp. Ganbei, the bunny's thinking Ribbit, whatever the fuck.
Kokoro's granddaughter that just recognizes him, that she doesn't even know who he is, but he's the guy that was at the train station.
And Chopper has a sense of smell that he uses to find his crewmates, so it's especially egregious that Chopper's falling for this. Will Luffy learn the truth about Sniper King anytime soon?
Well, I could say this much: it would be an expected method of resolution between Usopp and Luffy's conflict. If Luffy observes Sniper King performing some great combat techniques and still does not know who he is, eventually gets unmasked. So I could see that. But with that being a 376, towards the end of 375, we get introduced to some CP9 persons that we hadn't really otherwise seen. These are people that were not of the Galley Law deep state organization. These were people who were CP9 and at the headquarters. So we've got Jabra, Fukarul, Kumadori under the watchful eye of
Spandam?
Yeah, Spandam, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
do you have a preference? Do you like the big egg-shaped man with a zipper for a mouth?
I do like that he's got a double chin and sparse facial hair. He's got the bangs down to hide the receding hairline. His face is a little bit blushed naturally.
And his personality is that he can't resist like spreading gossip, and he told their secret plans to people, and that's like the zipper mouth is not natural, but they installed that so he'd keep his mouth shut. Like, what the fuck is this guy? What do you mean they installed a zipper on his mouth? What does that mean? How? What? What is this guy?
Well, I have to say, if this is really the, I mean, I know they're all CP9, but we've just seen such a incredibly intelligent and calculated organization of those CP9 members that installed themselves as galley law shipwrights.
Well, there's
like
probably a reason why they sent Lucci and Kaku undercover and not Fukuro.
Okay, I suppose that's fair. I don't know.
It probably makes sense.
Having them be in proximity to Spanda made me think maybe that, just in the same way that we had before a throwback to when they were discussing the next warlord to replace Crocodile, and they kind of had some of the upper crust was not putting themselves out the battlefield. But yes, maybe these might be the benched players, so to speak, perhaps.
Do you have any other thoughts on these characters?
I like Kumadori's freaky hairstyle. He kind of looks like what's that? Shogun? Is that? He's got like a certain kind of makeup on and a certain kind of appearance. He kind of looks like that racist Japanese meme where it's like dun, 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 oh! When he's committing seppuku.
Yeah.
So they're very interesting looking. Yeah, maybe. My inclination initially was that they might have great power, but I think I might be willing to accept your thoughts a bit more of them being bent.
I'm not saying that they're weak. I'm just saying they would not be good to go undercover because he's a big freakish man with a zipper mouth.
That's fair. Well, okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I also like Frankie biting the head of the Marine as he's hauled off in chains. That was also a high point of that chapter for me.
And I think we've more or less covered everything else from these 3 chapters. So anything else from this volume in general, Aggie, or any predictions for the future?
Well, so I did mention this earlier. I guess getting the ball rolling to Enies Lobby is. I certainly enjoyed everything that transpired here on the sea trains. Just like movies where things are on a train, I like the close quarters. There's something about it that just can heighten the action and the intensity of the situation for me. A little more sea train than I might have expected, but I'm happy we made it to Enies Lobby now. I'm looking forward to a rematch with the Straw Hats versus CP9. Kind of as we mentioned earlier in the episode, we've seen bits and pieces of them tacking on some additional strength over this arc, or the Water 7 arc rather, and I am excited to see this enhanced capability put into action. I don't know if the Frankie family is going to necessarily end up playing a huge role in what Luffy or Zoro are able to accomplish combat-wise. Really anybody, because I guess I don't know, we see Luffy squaring off against all these Marines after he launched himself in, but I guess I don't have any particular inkling towards who else might be getting a fight here in the near future, but
hopefully Nami with her new climate tactic. Can't wait to see what that can do, or the ultimate climate baton, whatever she called it.
I think she would do well against the female secretary, Sakiri, or whatever her name is.
So the 2 women are going to face off. Any other fight predictions? Is Usopp going to fight Kaku for long nose superiority?
I would like to see that, and then maybe we saw Sanji had enough of a kick to stir Bluno, even though he had the
iron
body. He was able to feel it, so maybe there's something there that might have been a little bit of a foreshadowing. And I don't know, Zoro and Lucci, that'd be a pretty cool fight.
That reminded me, in the fight with Nero, Frankie tanks a Tempest Kick attack, and I remember Lucci uses Tempest Kick and it splits the Enies, or it splits a Galley Law building completely in half. So either Frankie's durability is that much stronger than that entire building, or Nero is just so weak that his Tempest Kick doesn't do shit. Which it's probably that, since Lucci killed him in one fell swoop.
Yeah, I'm thinking that R.I.P. homeboy Nero. He
Forgettable
got up
character.
close, but yeah.
Fuck Nero. Hope I never see him again. I think that's it, Aggie. Next week it's volume 40. Can you believe we've done this 40 times?
Yep. So what? 3 months, and it'll be the 1 year anniversary. So we better start planning our 1 year anniversary here pretty soon. It'll get there before you know it.
Coming up in September, I assume.
August, right?
I thought we started the show last September, but I don't remember.
Well, we did have that 1 week of a double upload, so maybe that took
Yeah.
a week off.
Well, folks, 39 volumes in and 3,900 to go. We'll see you next time, folks.
Peace.
One Piece.